රිවයින් කරන්න පුළුවන් නිසා මුකුත් මගේ වෙන්නේ.
BOTV ටීවී බලන හොඳම විදිහ.
Making headlines on First at 9. Elephants at Singharaja. Translocation of the 2 remaining elephants at the reserve halted by the president amid concerns of it losing UNESCO World Heritage status. An environmentalist suggests an alternative.
The best option is to have radio collars on these 2 elephants and 1 monitoring station to monitor this.
Presidential election 2020. Former Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa says there is no issue in being a presidential candidate. Not on the same page. SLFP's group of 16 backs the former president for the premiership.
First step is to make Honorable Mahinda Rajapaksa the Prime Minister of this country.
Basil Rajapaksa, however, isn't impressed with their political indecision. Rule of law. Venerable Garugodatte Nyanasara Thera sentenced to 6 months of rigorous imprisonment. Kick-off. Russia gets the FIFA Football World Cup underway in Moscow.
A very good evening to you and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. The Singharaja Rainforest Reserve is the last viable remnant of Sri Lanka's tropical lowland rainforest, spanning an area of 18,900 acres. It is located within the Sabaragamuwa and southern provinces of the southern west lowland wet zone of the island and is also home to over 50% of Sri Lanka's endemic species of mammals and butterflies, as well as various kinds of insects, reptiles and rare amphibians. This precious rainforest came close to losing its status as a World Heritage Site as talks of translocating the only 2 remaining elephants in the reserve surfaced, with a nearby villager coming under attack recently. Upon the news breaking out, President Maithripala Sirisena instructed the Secretary to the Ministry of Wildlife and the officials of the Department of Wildlife Conservation to cancel the translocation.
Singharaja Rainforest, which is considered as a World Heritage Site, only has 2 elephants left. The Department of Wildlife decided to translocate the 2 elephants, citing threats posed by them to locals and the possible injuries the elephants could sustain during operations to chase them away from human contact. Accordingly, the Department of Wildlife launched an operation today to translocate these 2 elephants. In this backdrop, UNESCO notified Sri Lanka's Department of Wildlife Conservation that the Singharaja Forest Reserve will be at risk of losing its status as a World Heritage Site if these 2 wild elephants roaming the reserve are translocated. According to UNESCO, to be included on the World Heritage List, sites must be of outstanding universal value and meet at least 1 out of 10 selection criteria set up by UNESCO. Singharaja Rainforest meets 9th and 10th of its selection criteria. The 9th is to be outstanding examples representing significant ongoing ecological and biological processes in the evolution and development of terrestrial, freshwater, coastal and marine ecosystems and communities of plants and animals. The 10th is to contain the most important and significant natural habitats for in situ conservation of biological diversity, including those containing threatened species of outstanding universal value from the point of view of science or conservation. When First at 9 contacted UNESCO Sri Lanka, they said that Singharaja Reserve will not lose its status as a World Heritage Site if those elephants die due to natural causes. According to senior environment lawyer, attorney at law Jagath Gunawardena, the 10th criteria will be violated if these 2 elephants are translocated.
Singharaja is a site which has certain species which are unique to the system and certain species which are endemic and threatened with extinction, and Singharaja provides the basis for their in situ conservation. So removing these elephants is against the principles of in situ conservation, and that principle is part of the criteria number 10 of selecting a site to UNESCO. So if a threatened species, in this case the wet zone elephants, which are very few in number in Sri Lanka at present.
First at 9 questioned environmentalist Gunawardena as to what would the scenario be if only one of the 2 criteria Singharaja Forest falls under is violated.
as I said, the selection criteria are only 9 and 10. So even if one criteria is violated, the UNESCO can take appropriate action, and that is where they have decided on the evidence and the answers to their questions.
He further said that translocation of the 2 elephants undoubtedly isn't the only solution.
In this area, there is a lot of illegal gem mining, illegal alcoholic brewing, and also illicit felling of trees and illegal plantation, especially tea. Therefore, the claims of the people have to be weighed against the reasons why they had ventured into the forest. If they had walked into a dangerous situation, then that is their problem. The removal of these elephants may help the illegal activities in view of the current low level of law enforcement in this area, rather than relocating the elephants into a dry zone area where they are certainly going to perish in a very short time. The best option is to have radio collars on these 2 elephants, 2 radio collars and 1 monitoring station to monitor this.
In the meantime, President Maithripala Sirisena instructed the relevant authorities to cancel the translocation with immediate effect. The President has further instructed that any translocation efforts should be undertaken with the advice of experts.
The program Gama Hadana Gamana, organised parallel to Gram Shakti People's Movement, was launched yesterday in the Puttlam district. It was worked off under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena, and immediate solutions were given to the issues of the people in the area. The first instalment of the program Gama Hadana Gamana was held in the area of Mahavava of Madagoda in Puttlam under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. People's representatives from all the 16 divisional secretariats in the district came together to represent their development-related issues to the President. The President, having listened to people's problems, in turn took steps to provide immediate solutions.
යල්කන්නේ තබ්බු ව්‍යාපාරයේ ගොයින් 800කට පමණ පොහොර සානදාර නොලැබියාමේ තත්ත්වයක් තියෙනවා.
ගොවිජන සේවා කියන්න බලන්න මේ
පොහොර චක්‍රලේකී අනුව යම් කෙනෙක් පොහොර ගත්තොත් ඒ පොහොර ඒ කන්නේ දිහා වගාවක් කරේ නැත්නම් ඒ වෙනුවට ඊගාව කන්නේට හිලව් කරන ක්‍රමවේදයක් තමයි චක්‍රලේක අනුව තියෙන්නේ.
මේ කන්නේ අවශ්‍ය එක ඊළඟ කන්නේ කියනල්ලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. අපේ කුෂාරම ඇමතිතුමා මෙතන ඉන්නවා.
අපි මේකට අවශ්‍ය පොහොර ටික දෙන්නම් දැනට මේ අවශ්‍යතාවය සැලකිල්ලට අරගෙන අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කටයුතු කරනවා.
හොඳයි ඒක ඇමතිතුමාගේ මේ නියෝගයක් විදිහට ගොවිජන සේවාවේ විදිහට දාලා කරන්නේ.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is of the view that the Inspector General of Police should be held responsible for the failure in law enforcement within the country. He made his thoughts clear following a ceremony held in Polgasovita today. The foundation stone for the Sadham Seva International Building at the Sadham Seva International Buddhist Center in Polgasovita was laid today under the auspices of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and former Japanese Prime Minister Dr. Yukio Hatoyama. The 7-story building to be constructed is a private donation by the former Japanese Prime Minister Dr. Yukio Hatoyama. Following the event, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa expressed views to media.
This is a very dangerous situation. The security of citizens should be of paramount importance and the basic responsibility of a government. This security is now far from reality. Murders and gunning down people for meagre reasons have become a norm. Leaders should set an example so that it will trickle down to the society. Today, the police have failed to uphold law and order. The Inspector General of Police should be held responsible. The police fulfill their duty only by politicians. No other entity is active but the FCID. This is the fault of the IGP. Joint opposition calls for resignation of the leader of the opposition, calling into question his performance. Addressing a media briefing held in Kandy today, UPFA parliamentarian Shahan Singha requested the Speaker of the Parliament to establish democracy in the country by allowing the joint opposition to take over the entire opposition.
The country is now in a complete disorder. Unfortunately, the leader of the opposition as well as the chief opposition whip keeps very silent on current issues in the country. So it is very clear in Sri Lanka, other than any other country, Sri Lanka could be the only country where the official opposition is being governed by the government. So as such, I would like to ask Mr. Sambandhan, leader of the opposition, does Mr. Sambandhan think that he is doing justice to people of Sri Lanka? I would ask Mr. Sambandhan, please resign from the leader of the opposition post. I would ask Anurakumara Dissanayake, please resign as the chief opposition whip. Please ensure in parliament democracy is being protected, and the speaker, please allow the joint opposition to take over the entire opposition and create democracy within the parliament as well as outside parliament.
Homagama Chief Magistrate Udesh Ranatunga today sentenced General Secretary of the organisation, Bodu Balasena, Venerable Galagoda Atte Nanyasara Thera, to 6 months of rigorous imprisonment. The verdict relates to charges of the Thera threatening the wife of missing journalist Pragit Eknaligoda at the Homagama court premises.
Military officials arrested in connection with the disappearance of journalist Pragit Eknaligoda were brought before the Homagama Magistrates Court in January 2016. Following the end of the proceedings, Venerable Galagoda Atte Nyanasara Thera allegedly threatened Sandhya Eknaligoda, the wife of Pragit Eknaligoda, who later lodged a complaint with the Homagama police. Following a lengthy hearing process, Homagama Chief Magistrate Udesh Ranatunga delivered the verdict today and found the Thera to be guilty of criminal harassment and criminal intimidation. The magistrate sentenced Venerable Galagoda Atte Nyanasara Thera to 6 months of rigorous imprisonment. He was sentenced for 6 months each for both charges to be served at once. Thera was also ordered to pay a sum of 50,000 rupees in compensation to Sandhya Eknaligoda and a fine of 3,000 rupees. In the meantime, the Court of Appeal today extended the stay order issued preventing action being taken against former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa under the Public Property Act. Gotabaya Rajapaksa filed a writ petition with the Court of Appeal seeking an interim order preventing the police from arresting him in connection with the investigation into the misappropriation of public funds for the construction of the D.A. Rajapaksa Museum under the Public Properties Act earlier. The Fundamental Rights petition filed against the Provincial Council's Elections Amendment Act by former Chief Justice Sarath N. Silva was rejected by a majority of the 3-member judge bench of the Supreme Court today. The former Chief Justice filed the petition in the Supreme Court requesting the court to determine that the bill was unlawfully passed in Parliament. The Fundamental Rights petition was taken up for consideration today before a 3-member judge bench comprising Chief Justice Priyasad Depp, Supreme Court Judges Bhuwanika Alubihare and Nalin Pereira. The Provincial Council Elections Amendment Act passed in Parliament with a 2/3 majority on the 20th of September last year, with 154 voting in favour and 43 against it.
The 300 megawatt liquefied natural gas power plant in Kerawala-Pittiya is an essential power plant which comes under the Ceylon Electricity Board's government-to-government agreement of 1,400 megawatts of LNG power plants in the country. The long-delayed tender procedure for the construction project of the power plant came to an end recently, with the tender being awarded to a foreign company alleged to be from China. It is in this backdrop that the legal advisor to the National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection, Dr. Pratibha Mahanamaheva, today said that illegal activities have taken place during the tender procedure related to the plant in Kerawala-Pittiya.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka on Tuesday granted conditional approval for the new power generation expansion plan from 2018 to 2037, which was proposed by the Ceylon Electricity Board. The Public Utilities Commission has advised the CEB that the plan should also accommodate government-to-government agreement of 1,400 megawatts of LNG power plants in the country, as approved by the Cabinet. The tender procedure for the construction project of the proposed 300 megawatts of LNG power plant in Kerawala-Pittiya that comes under the new energy plan commenced in November 2016. The long-delayed and controversial tender procedure was concluded recently and the construction project is expected to be concluded by next year. It is in this backdrop that former Commissioner of the Sri Lankan Human Rights Commission, Dr. Pratibha Mahanamaheva, who is the legal advisor to the National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection, expressed these views.
Kerawala-Pittiya project. 8 tenders were called and the minimum tender price given by Lagdanau, that is 14.53. And the other one is a GC company, it is where basically go with 15.98. Now the issue was this. After considering all the tender procedure, they have already selected the lowest price. Any tender procedure, Sri Lanka follow the English law as well as there is a Ceylon Electricity Board Act. And thereafter, technical evaluation procedure went on. Thereafter, the letter was granted for the first Lagdanau project. And what happened? The secretary to the Electricity Board and the Ministry of Electricity has given a letter also granting that, but there were some footnotes also. Why the footnotes was given? For the Chinese company to make an appeal. Thereafter, the Chinese company make an appeal. It went illegal and also totally against the procedure. If there are any type of project, electricity project coming up, you have to go to the lowest price. Here the lowest price they have not gone through. And the other one, Public Utility Commission, to approve any new electricity generating project, they have to get the minimum price. We are also looking whether the Public Utility Commission is doing this. And the National Procurement Commission, they are also responsible for this. There was a paper presented to the cabinet. After the appeal, they are granting this to the Chinese company. The memorandum was given. We urge to stop this. Massive, unnecessary expenses you have to get to China.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa says he faces no obstacles in running for presidential election in 2020. He expressed these views to media after calling on Chief Prelate of the Asgiriya chapter, Most Venerable Warakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera today.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa visited the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy today. Thereafter, he called on the Chief Prelate of the Asgiri chapter, Most Venerable Warakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera.
If there is a request for it, there will be no problems as such. It will be former President Mahinda Rajapaksa who will decide the presidential candidate. Not only the underworld, people accept that all spheres in the society are deteriorating. Eliminating corruption doesn't mean imprisoning their opponents. They should catch the real thieves. We haven't engaged in corruption to earn money. Instead, they chase the helpless when those who committed real theft are free. Luckily, we have been able to obtain justice from courts. We don't have anything to tell the people.
A change to the position of Prime Minister is what's occupying the minds of the group of 16 parliamentarians of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party who recently left the unity government. Addressing a media briefing held at the residence of parliamentarian Thilanga Sumitipala today, parliamentarian Dilan Pereira highlighted their primary objective to be making former President Mahinda Rajapaksa the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. He added that once that goal is achieved, the group, which has come to be known as the Group of 16, will shift their focus onto the topic of presidential candidate for the election in the year 2020.
During the election of the new Deputy Speaker in Parliament, we stood against the UNP candidate, and I'm very happy that 16 members group was able to bring His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena and His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa together to support Mrs. Fernanda Pulle. So in the future also we feel that we can bring these two leaders together against the UNP. And the first step is to make Honorable Mahinda Rajapaksa the Prime Minister of this country. Of course, he is the best candidate to become the President, but because of the 19th Amendment, he can't contest elections again. Our main aim is to see that Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa is the Prime Minister of this country by the end of this year or the beginning of next year, and to do that, we must get the blessings of the President. Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump of Sri Lanka will get together soon, as we wish.
Although the Group of 16 is backing former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to be the next Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, the former President's brother and former Minister Basil Rajapaksa has a dim view of the group. Following a meeting with members of the joint opposition, the former minister said the political indecision of the group of 16 is unbecoming. He also speculated on the identity of the presidential candidate for the election in 2020 when members of the media quizzed him on MP Udaya Gammanpila's remarks, where the parliamentarian said that the joint opposition has put forth names of 4 candidates, including that of former Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය 2020 ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකයා ගැන නම් දෙකක් ඉදිරිපත් කළා තිබුණා. ඒ ඔබතුමාලා ඉත ආඩම්බරේ තාම කියන්නේ මොකද්ද මේ රහස?
මුලින්ම සූදානම් වෙන්නේ පළාත් සභා මැතිවරණයට.
First, we must prepare for the upcoming provincial council election. We should continue the process step by step. The public expect former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to return to power. If he is faced with any legal challenges in that regard, he must then propose a name for the presidential candidacy.
තමන්ගේ නියෝජිතයෙක් නම් කරાવી.
No, they haven't, and we wouldn't accept them either. They should join us if they accept our policies. We don't want people who wait until the last moment in an attempt to get every single ounce they can from the other side.
අන්තිම මොහොතේ ඉන්නවා නම් ඒක නම් හරියන්නේ නැහැ.
Father's Day is celebrated each year around the world. But how many of us gave a thought or made a link between father's role and personality and cognitive development of children? The UNICEF has done exactly that. They have identified this importance and have launched a special initiative targeting this Father's Day called Eat, Play, Love. Representative of UNICEF Sri Lanka, Tim Sutton, speaking to First at 9, said the initiative is launched to improve the future living standards of Sri Lanka.
The whole theme of this Father's Day event is called Eat, Play and Love, and that's really important because these are the 3 things that we really need to make sure that all Sri Lankan children enjoy. And why is that important for Sri Lanka? Simply because our children today will be the workers of tomorrow. And in 2040, we're going to have half as many people working. So just to maintain our current standard of living in Sri Lanka, our future workers are going to need to be twice as productive, just to maintain our standard of living. What we'd really like everybody to do is visit the website on Eat, Play and Love. It's unicef.lk/Eat, Play, Love. There, people will find 3 parenting masterclass videos. What we're hoping to do is gather enough signatures to show the government and other authorities that the people of Sri Lanka really care about making sure that their children, the children of Sri Lanka, get the best possible chance to develop and thrive.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Adavarana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. President of the Airline Pilots Guild of Sri Lanka, Captain Ruwan Wittanage, today testified before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to probe the management of Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lankan Catering and Mihin Lanka. He said that due to 6 aircrafts of the Sri Lanka Airlines not having the ETOPS certification, a huge loss was incurred by the company. Captain Wittanage also pointed out that 6 aircraft of the company are unable to acquire the ETOPS certification due to weaknesses aircraft maintenance.
President of the Airline Pilots Guild, Captain Ruwan Wittanage, testified before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, probing the management of Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lankan Catering and Mihin Lanka today. Captain Wittanage said that Sri Lankan Airlines acquired 6 dual-engine A320 and A321 aircraft on hire during the last 2 years. However, he pointed out that due to the weaknesses in the maintenance of aircraft, the ETOPS certification issued by the Civil Aviation Authority is not granted for these aircraft. The president of the Airline Pilots Guild further said that since these aircraft don't have the ETOPS certification and thus should fly within 1 hour of an airport, they are forced to take longer routes. Captain Ruwan Wittanage said that this situation is incurring a huge loss to Sri Lankan Airlines and that the Chief Executive Officer of the airline should take the responsibility for it since the aircraft lack maintenance and technical quality.
Minister of Petroleum Resources Development says Euro 4 fuel will be introduced to the Sri Lankan market, replacing super diesel and 95-octane petrol from next month. Euro 4 standard fuel, which is considered to be more environmentally friendly, will be provided at the existing price.
The Ministry of Petroleum Resources Development and the Sri Lankan Petroleum Corporation has made arrangements to introduce Euro 4 standard petrol and diesel into the market in mid-July. The main intention of this introduction of Euro 4 is to make people encouraged to use human and environment-friendly fuels. As a result of this, CPC will not issue super petrol and super diesel in future. So instead of that fuels, Euro standard fuels can be used. The price will not be changed, and normal petrol and normal diesel will be available as usual.
The United States Federal Reserve has voted to raise the target for its benchmark interest rate by 0.25%, citing solid economic expansion and job gains. The widely anticipated decision will lift the target for the US Central Bank's benchmark rate to 1.75% to 2%, the highest level since 2008.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates yesterday, a move that was widely expected but still marked a milestone in the US Central Bank's shift from policies used to battle the 2007-2009 financial crisis and recession. The Federal has raised rates 7 times since late 2015 on the back of the economy's continuing expansion and solid job growth, rendering the language of its previous policy statements outdated. A majority of federal officials also forecast 2 more rate rises this year, 1 more than previously predicted. The rise is part of the US recovery following the global financial crisis.
Sri Lankan shares closed lower for its 7th straight session today, with turnover slumping to a more than 3-week low as investors sold diversified shares. The all-share price index ended 0.17% weaker at 6,337.88, while the daily turnover stood at 273.3 million rupees. Foreign investors net sold 32.5 million rupees worth of equities today, extending the year-to-date net foreign outflow to 773.6 million rupees worth of shares. We now have Stefan Dialvis from NDB Securities for a detailed report as to how the stock market performed this week.
During the week, the ASPI lost 0.4%. Similarly, the S&P SL20 also decreased by 0.4%. The average daily turnover for the week was down from last week to 501 million rupees. Banks, finance and insurance sector recorded the highest sector turnover. Furthermore, foreigners remained active during the week, closing as net sellers, where foreign sales accounted for 55% of the total weekly turnover.
Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Tharana 24/7.
Top diplomats from United States, South Korea and Japan today promised to work together to ensure North Korea gives up its nuclear weapon program after US President Donald Trump's summit with the North's leader Kim Jong-un. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-wha and Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono met in Seoul 2 days after Trump and Kim signed a statement agreeing to pursue the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, along with foreign ministers of South Korea and Japan, Kang Kyung-wha and Taro Kono, held a joint news conference today, 2 days after US President Donald Trump met North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in a landmark summit. In his address, Pompeo said that North Korea will not see any economic sanctions lifted until it has demonstrated complete denuclearization.
The world should rest assured that the United States, the Republic of Korea, and Japan remain committed to achieving the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of North Korea. Kim Jong-un's public commitment to completely denuclearize is an important step towards bringing lasting peace and stability to Northeast Asia and indeed to the entire world.
Pompeo travelled from Singapore to South Korea to brief the US's regional allies on the summit and on Trump's surprise announcement that he was ending routine US-South Korea military drills. Touching on the subject, South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa said that joint South Korea-US military exercise is a matter for the South Korea-United States alliance, and in terms of that, it is an issue that should be decided by military authorities. Addressing the joint news conference, Japanese Foreign Minister Taro Kono said that Japan maintains its stance, where it aims to resolve the nuclear, missile and abductee issues comprehensively, normalize diplomatic ties with North Korea, and then offer economic assistance to the country. A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Your temperatures for tomorrow will vary between 21 and 33 degrees Celsius, with the highest of 33 degrees Celsius expected along the coastal line from Mullaitivu to Batticaloa. When we're looking at the map, a low pressure zone will develop in the western province and will gradually disappear. The sun will shine bright upon several areas of the island, including Jaffna, Mannar, Trincomalee and Batticaloa. But it will be an opposite scenario in the areas of Vaunia, Anuradhapura, Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Mathura as well as Hambantota, as they will experience showers. That's all we have from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.